million UFO sightings are reported each year. Most can be debunked, but 5% remain unexplained. These are the close encounters. In a small village 50 kilometers from Pittsburgh, locals report a ball of fire streaking across the sky and falling into a nearby forest. Not far from the home of machinist and volunteer firefighter Jim Romansky.
It's been over 47 years that I've been gathering information on the Kecksburg case. Over the years, I've interviewed hundreds of people that were either directly involved in the case or had other information concerning the event. I personally interviewed Jim Romansky, who was one of the primary witnesses involved in this case.
We interrupt this program for a special KTK news bulletin. Witnesses describe a large burning object falling from the sky and landing in a wooded area in Westmoreland County. Authorities fear the object may in fact be a passenger airplane.
Damn.
This is Jim.
Jim Romansky was from a volunteer fire department outside of Kecksburg, several miles away.
I'm on my way.
His unit was activated to assist in the search of a possible downed aircraft in the Kecksburg area.
I've spoken to Jim Romansky a number of times and talked to him in great detail about what he saw. What's important about the Kecksburg case, I think one of the most important aspects is the number of witnesses. There's such a clear picture of what happened.
Okay, guys, we don't have a lot of time here. Bill, I want you and your boys to check out this section here. And Romansky, I want you and your guys to check out this section right here. Got that?
Yep.
Okay, let's go.
The firefighters were called in quickly because something had crashed in those woods. Maybe they needed to rescue people. They needed to get in.
It's an emergency situation in that small farming community. It's something they've never ever seen before.
All right, let's spread out. Through here.
This was a very thickly wooded area, and it was not easily accessible. It was a very, very good location for something to be hidden and not easily seen.
Romansky and a fellow first responder split off from the group and head into a ravine.
They had to get into the middle of the woods, and it was even in sort of a gully.
They're looking down, and here's this thing just several feet away that's partially buried in the ground.
What is that?
I don't know.
He knew immediately it was not an airplane. So what was it and how did it get there?
As Jim explained to me, he felt that a full-size human being could easily move around the side of that object.
Romansky moves in to search for signs of life.
This was something extremely unusual.
Volunteer firefighter Jim Romansky is part of a search team looking for a possible downed plane in the woods near Kecksburg, Pennsylvania.
What is that?
I don't know.
But that's not what he finds.
Jim says that they're staring at this object. They realize this is something highly unusual. They realize this is not a meteorite, and this is unlike anything that they had ever seen before. Jim has been a machinist all his life, and when he looked at this object, he said the best way to describe what he saw was that it looked like somebody took liquid metal and poured it into an acorn-shaped mold.
As a first responder, Romansky remains focused on finding survivors. But survivors from what?
He said there were no rivets, no seams, no doors, no windows.
There's no weld marks, no fuselage, no wings. There's no way he can see any way for somebody to get in and out of whatever this thing is. There was dirt and debris around the object itself, but he got a pretty good estimate of the size. He figured it was probably about 10 to 12 feet or more in length, approximately about 8 to 10 feet in diameter.
Along the sort of bottom of the acorn shape, there were these what he called hieroglyphics, some kind of symbols on the craft.
I remember Jim telling me he was so fascinated with the symbols on the object, and they were clearly defined. He remembered, for example, stars and broken lines and circles. Because of his ethnic background, he was somewhat familiar with Russian writing, and he said that's positively not what it was.
The fact that it was during the Cold War, of course, made people particularly sensitive to security issues.
Gentlemen, get back to your vehicles immediately and leave the area. This area is under strict quarantine.
Down through the woods comes these stern-looking men in trench coats. And they tell him, you gotta leave the area right away. And right behind them, coming down through the woods, are soldiers.
Secure the perimeter.
I mean, he was stunned by this. He didn't know who they were. He didn't know why they were there. He'd never seen people like that before in Kecksburg in the woods. They meant business.
Get those civilians out of here.
Get to your vehicle and leave the area.
Jim and the other firemen just followed the orders because here's somebody in apparently official capacity has told them that they had to leave the area.
What Jim told me was he immediately knew that this was something serious when that happened.
He just left the area and went back to the fire station.
When Romansky arrives at the volunteer fire station, he finds it's been taken over by outsiders in uniform.
Jim recalled seeing military personnel and equipment all around that fire station, using it like as a temporary command post.
No entry at this time, sir. I just need to go to the bathroom.
Basically, he's asking that he'd like to go inside and use the restroom, and the soldiers there told him that he couldn't go in, that he would have to go use the woods. Jim recalls seeing a large military truck and is escorted by other military vehicles.
The truck is carrying some kind of heavy cargo concealed beneath a tarp.
As Jim was watching this and he's looking at the general shape of the object on the back of the truck and the approximate height, he said, that looks very close to what he saw laying up there in the woods. So he tied two and two together that this very likely was that same object.
He never forgot what he saw. He, to this day, wants to know what it was and feels he has a right to know.
I think the ultimate dream is that we would hope that the government would finally open up to the public and let them know the truth about what really happened that night in 1965, because there's so many people who were involved and they'd love to have closure on this case.
Whatever the government may know, they keep Jim Romansky and more than 100 other witnesses in the dark. The search for answers continues to this day. Immediately following the incident, the U.S. Air Force denies that anything came down that night in the Kecksburg woods. Examining data from the U.S. Space Command and the Russian Space Agency, investigators discover a Soviet satellite, Cosmos 96, had re-entered the Earth's atmosphere that night. But some astronomers continue to believe the object may have been a meteorite consisting of iron compounds. In 2007, hundreds of government files are made public, confirming the presence of military personnel in Kecksburg that night. But investigators believe the government has yet to reveal all they know.
Hey, Dad, look up there.
I think we should go. Oh my God.
It got exceedingly low.
Good evening. The local weather center is calling for another clear night. Another great chance to catch a glimpse of the comet Hale-Bopp, Jen.
Yep, keep an eye for a small bright light with a long tail.
I heard it's going to be northwest. Don't miss it.
On a clear night in this desert city, Tim Lay and his son look for the latest sign of the comet Hale-Bopp, an astronomical event that has been lighting up the night skies for months.
How's a Hale-Bopp tonight?
The same.
I've reviewed this case in extreme detail. The Hale-Bopp comet was visible in the night sky, and many people were in fact out to observe it. This case is unique because we have not only hundreds, but potentially thousands of eyewitnesses.
On the other side of Phoenix, Trig Johnson and his family aren't looking for the comet. They're taking advantage of the cool evening air to do some yard work.
So I've personally interviewed a number of the witnesses, both those who have been out in public and those who choose to remain silent.
Hey, what is that?
Hey, Dad? Look up there! That's not the Hale-Bopp, is it?
Despite the fact the Hale-Bopp comet was in the sky on that particular night over Phoenix, this in no way could have explained the formation of lights, which many witnesses said blocked out the stars as it flew overhead.
Trig Johnson was a commercial airline pilot and was really familiar with things in the sky and things that flew. So his experience and his observational skills make him an important witness. And his first reaction was that he was seeing some airplanes in formation.
What the hell is that?
It's one hell of an air show.
It appeared as if it was some type of V formation of lights.
He thought that possibly this was a 5-ship of C-130 Hercules transports with some sort of giant lights on the front. It's hard to put oneself in the mind and the shoes of someone like Trig Johnson, who, upon first observation, makes an assumption about what he's looking at and makes a best guess and decides, oh, I can map this onto existing technology. But as it got closer, the size and scope of the lights convinced him that this was not conventional aircraft.
The way it turns, it's so precise.
This set of lights didn't flinch, waver, move, or anything in rate, speed, or altitude. That's unnatural in and of itself.
The lights then started moving toward them. They then observed that these lights were not independent and were in fact embedded into a large craft.
Trig said, I could land my commercial airliner on the top of this thing, whatever it was. So he's talking about something unbelievably big.
In spite of their initial fear,
I think we should go.
they don't move a muscle.
What witnesses have told me, including Trig Johnson, was I did not want to take my eyes off this object. They were transfixed.
Throughout that entire period, we had hundreds, if not thousands, of eyewitnesses.
Witnesses like Tim Lay and his son, who've been tracking the comet Hale-Bopp all evening.
Tim and his son Hal were out driving around, and they had just returned to the house.
What is it?
The first time they saw it, the lights appeared to be in a row, and they were coming, again, from the northwest.
Why don't you go get your mom?
thought maybe helicopters, but maybe not.
This series of lights actually moved in their direction, and they were able to gain a better appreciation of this V-shaped craft.
Oh my God.
It got exceedingly low.
Hey, Dad? Look up there.
In Phoenix, Arizona, the Johnson family is mesmerized by what appears to be a V-shaped craft. And across town, the Lay family were looking for the comet Hale-Bopp, but they found something else.
Oh my God.
Tim Lay and his family observed this large object as it moved overhead. He observed what looked like recessed lights in the underside of this object.
And then this object expands out into something that was 1,500 feet, to where the far end of it you can't see on the other side of the little valley.
As the object comes closer, it appears to transform.
They described that it was as though they were looking at the stars being projected on the underside of the object. This has been alluded to in military circles as starfield camouflage. There's an object known as the stealth blimp and other objects that are reportedly designed to project the stars above beneath the object.
If the object has the ability to change its shape or its perceived shape, is that the same object if somebody else describes it differently? It's very important to understand that there could be as many as 6, possibly 12 different very large black objects floating around the airspace in Arizona on that night. Whatever these objects are, they're not doing aerodynamics. They're not deflecting air down, and they're not using any kind of conventional propulsion system, or we'd hear a lot more noise. Tim Lee's definition of this process was it was deafening silence.
Suddenly, the object descends and picks up speed.
It got exceedingly low. It was really going right over their heads.
From the Johnsons' point of view, the object doesn't get closer. It seems to be sending a transmission.
Trig Johnson and his family felt there was a communication given to them personally by whatever intelligence, if we want to call it that, was in the object. Something that we might want to call telepathy was employed to communicate with the witnesses. And what was delivered to them was, don't worry, this is just a demonstration. What the meaning of that is and who would be in a position to project that into the minds of an observer and why they were giving a demonstration is one of the issues we need to solve with this case.
After nearly 30 minutes, the object appears to move away.
Look, it's leaving.
The object traversed the greater Phoenix, Arizona area, moving from the northwest to the southeast. When we take into account the silent flight, the large size of this object, and the unusual propulsion system, we're forced to conclude that we're dealing with a genuine unknown.
The Lays watch as the strange craft disappears. The same night, several witnesses capture video images of hovering lights. These come to be known as the Phoenix Lights. Phoenix City Council launches an investigation. Over 600 witnesses come forward saying they saw a UFO. An airman from nearby Luke Air Force Base claims that 2 fighter planes were scrambled and intercepted a flying object that night. Air Force officials deny this occurred and announce that illumination flares were launched at a firing range the night of the event. Days later, Arizona Governor Fife Symington holds a mock press conference in which he presents an aide disguised as an alien. But 10 years later, he admits that he too witnessed a craft of unknown origin.